I feel compelled to add a heartfelt voice to the George Floyd situation, the tragic George Floyd situation in the United States, and to the Black Lives Matter cause. Not that I am a black rights activist or crusader, or human rights, or even diversity crusader for that matter. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner and leader. I suppose in some areas over which I have a following and some interest. So say that to say I'm not coming with any kind of agenda today with this message that, as I say, I feel compelled to share both personally from my heart and on behalf of the companies that I am either the leader of or involved in the leadership of in various ways. And I suppose the interesting thing as well for me is that I have 3 older daughters and my 8-year-old daughter Brooke. One of those daughters is a female police officer, actively serving. Another one is meant to be living in New York, works for a company based in New York. They managed to get out and move to another state in the United States. But they are over there in the United States along with my 1-year-old grandson. And my beautiful wife Lisa is from South Africa. Her parents, her father and her stepmother, were black rights activists. Her stepmother was a social justice lawyer in South Africa, and Lisa's grandfather was actually a black rights freedom fighter and lost his life, was assassinated for that cause. And when, of course, you travel to other countries, particularly South Africa, I guess, you see those issues much more starkly than we see them here in Australia. And so I will confess that I come with this little message as someone that fits into the category of a privileged white man. I do. I had a comfortable middle-class upbringing, etc., etc. Sure, I've had my struggles, but I wouldn't pretend to be someone that can say that I've got some sense of on-the-ground identification with what black lives have to deal with sadly in many, many countries still. And so this is, I guess, simply just to add a small voice to the outpouring of grief and sentiment and sense of injustice that happened to George Floyd, and also to make the point, I think, that in the United States, given the situation with COVID-19, there clearly has been a recent pent-up energy of dissatisfaction, of unrest, of distrust, of anger, and the situation with George Floyd has certainly triggered, to use that dreadful word, unprecedented situation. And for sure, I'm sure George Floyd himself would be, in some senses, gratified by the amount of momentum that this has caused for that movement. I received an interesting email from a lady by the name of Konrath, who I can't claim to know, but hello Jill, if you're watching this. And I really enjoyed, I found great value in what she said. She actually lives in Minneapolis. And she says, and I think shares the narrative that's probably going on in most of our minds, She says, watching the video of his death is painful, but my feelings are nothing compared to those who've faced a lifetime of discrimination and fear. And she goes on to add some points around that, and living over there, it gives us a little bit of an insight. She says, for 2 days it was pretty bad. Sirens roaring, fires blazing. I was glued to my TV, not believing that this could be happening in my backyard. Her daughter, who lived only a couple of blocks away from the major looting, moved in with her for safety. But then she goes on to say that what amazed me the most was that what our city leaders did over the next few days. Rather than raging about the thugs, they addressed the pain people felt. They sought to understand the anger. They reinforced our rights as citizens to protest, to have freedom of speech. They involved dozens of leaders in our minority communities, Black, Latino and Asian, listened to what they had to say and engaged them in solving the problem. And she said in that area of Minneapolis, residents everywhere were pitching in to help. They were cleaning up streets, organising food drives, assisting those in need. Black, white, Asian, Latino, it didn't matter. Working side by side, coming together. And I think that's a very poignant, positive aspect of what's going on at the moment. And also she did make a very telling and challenging point. She said, for me, sitting quietly on the sidelines is no longer possible. Silence is complicity. It always has been. So there's a challenge for us, if ever was one. Silence is complicity. And so she said, I'll start by saying his name, George Floyd. And so I think that we need to recognise that fundamentally what is going on here and what has been demonstrated so graphically is fundamentally an abuse of power. And secondly, obviously a fundamental act of discrimination, which has a long embedded history in many, many countries, of course, including our own here in Australia, as we've seen recently. And so I think for me, if we take the words that Michael Jackson famously sung, if you want to make a change, look at the person in the mirror. So I start perhaps by looking at myself. And when it comes to abuse of power, asking that hard question, am I inflicting abuse of power? Am I inflicting my own, as I say, unconscious biases, my own discriminations upon the people in my little sphere of influence, my family, my staff, my clients, my suppliers, the people that I deal with every day? So am I in any way allowing an abuse of power to come forth in my dealings? That's a challenging question that I think this brings up for me, and also obviously what general sort of acts of discrimination do I have? And we actually do employ a multiracial team in my companies, Urban eLearning, Business Clicks Marketing, and in my wife's businesses, Wholesomeness on Roma. We have all sorts of different people, which I love. It makes up the diversity and the character and the richness of a team. So my challenge to myself in all of this is to examine myself, as I've said, and then also to take on board what Jill so poignantly wrote, that silence is complicity. So we can't actually be silent, and that's one of the reasons why I'm making this video. Hashtag Black Lives Matter, and absolutely all power to that movement. The reality is all lives matter, as my wife would say. And Yes, there is a huge imbalance that the black communities around the world have this massive energy at the moment around redressing, and so it should be. And as well, let's add our voice to the fact that all lives matter. We are created in the image of God, and as such, we all deserve to be treated in a way that is devoid of discrimination and absolute abuse of power in that way. So that's my little contribution to George Floyd, and sending thoughts and love, of course, to his family and to the thousands, millions of people out there, especially in America at the moment and around the world, that are feeling the pain, and I suppose more importantly are expressing that pain through these demonstrations. The violence, I don't think anybody could condone that, and a lot of that probably has absolutely nothing to do with the grassroots movement that the George Floyd's death has triggered, and it's very sad. And so I just simply leave you with those two thoughts, I guess. Let's start by looking at ourselves in the mirror and what we can do in our own little worlds, our own spheres of influence. And secondly, let's take on board that important point. Silence is complicity. Good to chat. Have a great day.